Let's dive right into this fascinating explainer. You know, human interactions are incredibly messy, and today we're decoding the unwritten rules of modern society. We're drawing our insights from a wildly entertaining recent deep dive conversation on the Too Hot Take show, where host Morgan and comedian Lucas Zelnick unpacked some truly bizarre real-life case studies. I mean, we are talking about stories that test the absolute limits of our patience, our hygiene, and, honestly, our sanity.
Today, we're navigating 5 distinct social dilemmas: exotic encounters, culinary boundaries, party math, modern intimacy, and neighborhood gnomes. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Stand-up and exotic encounters.
We kick things off with comedian Lucas Zelnick. Now, as a stand-up comic, Lucas is totally used to dealing with unpredictable hecklers during his sets, right? But absolutely nothing prepared him for this completely surreal encounter he had while vintage shopping out in Oklahoma. Usually, a vintage store is just a chill gateway to a trendy coffee shop. But out in Oklahoma, the social rules are just different. While he's just standing there browsing t-shirts, a total stranger casually looks at him and offers to let him hold a literal marsupial. And the owner? Oh, he was just chilling 2 aisles down. It just brilliantly illustrates how instantly normal social boundaries can vanish.
And get this, it wasn't just any kangaroo. We are talking about a 3-month-old pet kangaroo wearing a literal diaper, freely hopping around a retail store with 0 leash and absolutely no immediate supervision. It turns out the owner was from an exotic animal ranch called HQ Ranch. But wow, this encounter just goes to show that in certain parts of the world, bringing a diapered wild animal into a clothing store is just totally within the bounds of standard social etiquette. Wild, right?
Now, speaking of wildly unpredictable characters who love to push boundaries, let's look at a workplace that basically thrives on it. 20th Century Studios is bringing back the ultimate case study in workplace boundary testing with The Devil Wears Prada 2, hitting theaters May 1st. 2 decades later, Miranda Priestley's career is on the line, and Andy Sachs is called in for damage control in this incredibly cutthroat digital media world. Talk about having to navigate some intensely stressful social dynamics under pressure.
Section 2. Culinary boundaries and hygiene.
Okay, so let's see how social contracts are tested right inside our very own kitchens. Because look, public boundaries are one thing, but the boundaries of what we are physically willing to ingest, that is an entirely different ballgame. I want you to be the jury for this one. A husband sits down to what he thinks is a totally fresh plate of spaghetti made by his wife. But after just a couple of bites, he realizes the sauce has this very strange, oddly sweet, and kind of earthy taste. When he asks what her secret new ingredient is, the truth about her recycled spaghetti sauce prompts him to immediately shove his plate away and refuse another bite.
So here is the kicker. To thicken up this fresh sauce, his wife had blended up leftover spaghetti from exactly 6 days ago. And guys, we aren't talking about a day-old slice of pizza sitting in a box. This was nearly a week-old pasta completely pureed and hidden inside a brand new meal. When the husband found out, his stomach absolutely turned. But surprisingly, his wife felt incredibly disrespected that he wouldn't finish the meal she worked so hard on.
Well, the internet heavily sided with the husband on this one, pointing out a very harsh food safety reality. An earthy taste in old repurposed food? That is a massive, flashing red flag for mold, fungus, and rot. Generally speaking, cooked pasta spoils in about 3 to 5 days, so sneaking 6-day-old blended pasta into someone's dinner is a definitive violation of trust and, frankly, basic hygiene boundaries. Seriously, food hygiene and our physical bodily boundaries are no joke. Morgan and Lucas actually got into this during their chat, discussing this absolutely terrifying condition called alpha-gal syndrome. It's triggered by the bite of the Lone Star tick, and it permanently rewires your immune system so you become violently allergic to red meat and dairy. It just goes to show that whether we are dealing with 6-day-old spaghetti or a tiny little bug bite, our bodies have incredibly strict biological boundaries that we literally cannot negotiate with.
Section 3. Social etiquette and party math.
Next up, let's explore the highly logical yet socially volatile world of grad school party etiquette. When young adults get together to share drinks, there is almost always this unwritten, invisible ledger of who brought what and who owes whom. Imagine this scenario. You and your partner are invited to a mid-20s grad school gathering. The rule is simple. Everyone brings a 6-pack to swap. So, as a couple, you responsibly show up with 2 6-packs of IPAs, which is 12 beers total. Now your partner has to work early the next morning, so he drinks absolutely 0 beers. You, on the other hand, decide to partake heavily, drinking way past your individual 6-pack allotment. This single guest ended up consuming 8 heavy IPAs in one single evening. Now, just from a purely health-based standpoint, drinking 8 high-alcohol IPAs is definitely excessive. But socially, this completely ruffled the feathers of the party's host, who actually marched right up to the guest and demanded he pay for the 2 extra beers he drank beyond his allowed 6.
Let's just look at the math here, because it brilliantly highlights how completely unhinged the host's demand was. Together, the couple brought 12 beers to the party. Between the two of them, they only drank 8. That leaves a net positive of 4 extra beers for the house. And yet, the host completely ignored the partner's contribution and outrageously demanded that the guest pay out of pocket for the 2 extra beers he consumed individually.
The internet's verdict on this unwritten social rule was crystal clear. While yes, downing 8 heavy IPAs is certainly a lot, extreme bean counting at a casual party is just terrible etiquette. If a couple brings more than they consume, the house wins. End of story. But the ultimate takeaway here? If a host is going to cause a dramatic scene over 2 measly beers, just hand over the petty $4 to avoid the headache. And honestly, never go to a party with those weirdos again.
You know, navigating these incredibly awkward, petty social confrontations really takes a lot of confidence. And helping you feel completely empowered in those moments is exactly what our sponsor, Skims, does best. Their shapewear, bodysuits, and comfortable everyday essentials are expertly designed to make you feel smooth, seamless, and incredibly confident in your own skin. So when you're out there navigating the wild world of social dynamics, your outfit is the last thing you have to worry about.
Section 4. Navigating modern intimacy.
If you thought sharing deers was complicated, let's look at the emotional whiplash of dealing with a distant dating partner. A 29-year-old woman had been dating a 34-year-old guy for about a month. He was super charming, gave great compliments, and they texted literally every single day. But the night she finally slept with him, his behavior completely shifted. They went to sleep at 2 a.m., and he immediately turned his back to her. His alarm went off at 7 a.m., and he showed absolutely zero morning warmth. And the ultimate boundary violation? He coldly sent her to her Uber down the street, without even bothering to walk her to the car. She left feeling completely used.
And to make matters worse, that consistent, lovely daily texting, it completely vanished. After 2 full days of total silence, this is the incredibly distant, unromantic, low-effort text message he finally sent her. Recovered yet? That's it. No check-in to see if she got home safe, no warmth, just 2 little words that totally solidified his absolute lack of emotional consideration.
Analyzing interpersonal conflicts like this really requires a solid grasp of emotional intelligence. In any relationship, you absolutely must recognize whether your partner needs a logical, solution-based approach to a problem, or if they simply need emotion-based validation and comfort. In this dating scenario, the guy completely lacked the basic emotional intelligence to provide the warmth and reassurance a partner needs after a vulnerable, intimate moment. When someone shows you they can't navigate those emotional boundaries, the best response is often to just politely walk away and protect your peace.
Section 5. Neighborhood Politics and Gnomes.
For our final case study today, we are looking at what happens when unwritten social rules are literally forced right onto your front lawn. Because think about it. You can choose your dates, and you can definitely choose your party friends, but you usually cannot choose your neighbors. A 26-year-old woman bought her very first house in a quiet little neighborhood with absolutely no HOA. The day she moved in, her 65-year-old neighbor, Mr. Thomas, gifted her a spectacularly hideous garden gnome. She politely thanked him, but promptly hid the ugly thing out of sight in her shed. Well, a few days later, Mr. Thomas confronted her, furiously demanding to know why the gnome wasn't proudly displayed on her front lawn. He claimed it was a forced neighborhood tradition that everyone on the street simply must participate in.
Well, she calmly refused to display it. And, miraculously, her single act of defiance inspired all the other neighbors to start tossing out their forced gnomes too, sparking this hilarious silent neighborhood revolution against Mr. Thomas. So distilling everything down from this explainer, we get these ultimate rules of engagement: clear communication and respecting personal boundaries. Whether we're talking about food safety, petty finances, emotional intimacy, or weird lawn decor, are absolutely crucial to a functional society.
It is honestly fascinating how much pressure society puts on us to just conform to the crowd, simply to keep the peace. So as we wrap up today, I want you to ask yourself a serious question. If you were faced with an angry Mr. Thomas, how far would you go to protect your own personal boundaries against the unwritten rules of the neighborhood? Would you confidently stand your ground, or would you just sigh and put the ugly gnome on the lawn? Think about it, and we'll